No, look, I mean, being a tech entrepreneur is not the easiest. Just being an entrepreneur in general, as we all know, right? You go through these ups, you go through these downs, and you ride this roller coaster. And so, for me, I was definitely on that roller coaster with Look Live, and this is a person who's helped, who's seen me cry. She's seen me literally cry in front of her about the experiences. So I don't think we're gonna get into all of that, but I do want to bring her up now. Everyone say what's up to Jewel Burks Solomon. Jewel, how are you?
Hey, y'all.
What's going on? What's going on? Yeah. Tre'von's a really big fan of yours. Like, if you have a fan club on Facebook, he might have created it.
Thank you.
I think he might have created it.
I have to, first of all, this is like the dopest thing ever. I know y'all are feeling the energy. This is so cool. It's so awesome.
I love it. No, we're going to keep it rocking. And I see you repping the Howard Nelia. Is Howard in the building?
I had to come through with the Howard.
Tre'von came through with the Morehouse. So we love Howard. We love Howard. Look, second best institutions are always good. I love it. I love it. I love it. No, look, and this is great. I mean, I think what's awesome is, we did this, and one of the reasons we did it, right, was because we wanted our immediate friend group to connect and just get to know each other. And from us being at HBCUs, we have a lot of people who also went to historically Black colleges and universities. And so I guess first, like, why did you choose Howard? Was that on your radar? What happened? Take us back to 17-year-old Jewel.
Long time ago.
Let's do that.
You know what? I always wanted to go to HBCU. Actually, I didn't have a choice. Both my parents went to Tuskegee. So I grew up around HBCUs. Actually, pretty much everybody in my family went to an HBCU. And so the path was for me to go to Tuskegee, but I did not want to be in the country. I wanted to go to a bigger city. So I wanted to go to Howard. My mom really wanted me to either go to Tuskegee or Hampton. And so originally I was supposed to go to Hampton. I was already signed up, had my dorm assignment, and then it came down
like money's paid.
Money's paid, everything. But it came down to like July before school was supposed to start, and they sent me a letter that said my scholarship had been rescinded because I didn't send some paperwork in time, even though I knew I sent it. Things get lost sometimes.
That's HBCUs.
HBCUs, yes. But I was like, okay, cool. So I called Howard and I was like, hey, can I still get my scholarship? And they said, yes, you can get your scholarship. You can get, you can go live in the annex, the nice dorm. So I was like, Mom, do you want to pay for me to go to Hampton, or would you like for me to go to Howard for free? Which one?
For sure.
And so she was like, okay, fine. So I ended up at Howard, best experience, made my best friends.
Can we dive into Howard a little bit? So you get to Howard, and again, I think we people might have looked you up. We maybe know about you in the business world. Were you coming in like, all right, I'm going to be a CEO of something freshman year, right? Or were you? What was your mood? What was your mood?
Yeah, so I did feel like I definitely stepped on campus like I'm about to run some things. I had my Inroads internship the summer before, so
Inroads.
Feeling myself, definitely stepping on campus. I ran for freshman class president, so was yes, I was planning on being the president of something, CEO of something. At the time, I definitely did not know what. So used the years at Howard to get experience, interned on Wall Street, and then interned at Google my sophomore year. So that really kind of brought me into the tech industry.
Okay, so I think that's a great point that I think maybe a lot of people in the chat might be at right now, right? I maybe work at a more corporate gig and I want to do something more creative. Google looks fun. Tech companies look fun. They've got good snacks and I can do my laundry there, and like it's a free flowing environment. So again, now let's move from 17-year-old Jewel up to like 21, 22-year-old Jewel, where you're, in that environment at Google. Talk to us. Like, are you like, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling content, or did you still feel like there was more that needed to be done? Talk to us there.
Yeah, so I got to Google, moved out to California, and I was there for a couple years, and I started to feel like, this isn't it for me. I don't like being so far from family. I don't think this is what I'm destined to do. So I ended up leaving Google in 2012 and moved to Atlanta. And at that time, I didn't have an idea for what I wanted to pursue, but I knew that I needed to be closer to family and really that I wanted to just not be living in the Bay Area anymore.
Okay.
And then I started working at a company called McMaster Car, which would be pretty much the most opposite place in the world to Google as far as like culture and just very different.
And this is back home?
This is in Atlanta. So yeah, I'm originally from Nashville, but Atlanta's been home for the last 8 years. So yeah, here in Atlanta. But I moved to Atlanta because my grandmother was diagnosed with breast cancer. My younger brother was sick. Also, my grandmother was in Nashville, and she still is. And my younger brother was in Mobile, Alabama at the time. So I wanted to be somewhere where I could drive to both of them to kind of get to them in the times where they were having surgeries and different things. And so Atlanta is 3.5, 4 hours from Nashville, 4.5 from Mobile. Yep. So it was perfect for me. And also when I was growing up, I always wanted to live in Atlanta. So it made a lot of sense for me to move here.
So if you don't mind, we'll stop right there. Another point. Yeah. So what age are you here?
I moved here when I was 23.
Okay, so we're moving a little bit past 17 now and past 21. So I think what's interesting there is you mentioned like real life happens, right? I think a lot of us are sitting at home right now, and this is an example of like real life happening where it's like, okay, I can't go outside, or loved ones are getting sick. You're mentioning loved ones getting sick. My mom was also diagnosed with breast cancer. Just had a lot of like family things that happened at one point. And so real life happens, but then like, how do you still say, I'm still going to pursue my dreams in the midst of this, right? Some people are like, yo, I can't go do this or move to this city because grandma would miss me, or are they going to, I'm helping with the bills right now, right? Because I have the corporate job. So how did you deal or begin to push through that? Because talk to us about that, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. Like family in my book is first. And so you have to take care of home. And for me, that was me moving to Atlanta, was to be close so that I could be an asset to my family and be there for them when they were going through these different things. And also it was the reason I took the job I took. So it wasn't ideal as far as like nowhere near, from my perspective, like as great a company as Google, but from a dollars and cents perspective, it paid me more. It gave me an opportunity to manage people, and it gave me an opportunity to save so that I could be of help to my family. So that's the reason I took that job at that time. And although I might have wanted to go ahead and pursue entrepreneurship earlier, for me, it was like, I need to stack some money first before I go out and kind of pursue my dreams. And so I was there for 1.5 years, and I was really there with the intention of saving money. And at the time, I thought I was going to go to business school. So I was like in MLT, planning on going to school. And then I realized maybe midway through there that I had this idea for a company. And instead of pursuing business school, I was actually going to pursue the company. So that's kind of how that happened.
Okay, so now we're here. Okay, this is good. So this is a really good part, but I'm glad we got here because, again, the title is The Entrepreneur's Mindset. And I think what I'm finding out, even just in the moment right now listening to you, is that the mindset is all of this. It's not just how do you run the company and how do you run the business, but it's dealing with these like real life emotions and balancing them and juggling them. So I think a lot of people in the chat are probably right where you are, right? Again, right? They have this job, they're making money, they like the consistent paycheck, but they want to go pursue business. But can you talk a little bit about, especially now putting an investor hat on, you didn't just like find a business, right? You also found a need that like needed a business to be built around that need, right? So can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I started working for a parts company. I really honestly hated it. I didn't like the job. But what I was learning was that there was a big gap in this particular industry around technology. I just came from Google, so I had this lens that I was looking through the world at, which was you can solve big problems with technology. And so when I got to the company, I started thinking about, oh, they're doing this in this certain way. This particular thing could be solved looking at technology. So the biggest problem that I saw every day in my job was the fact that people could not find the parts that they were looking for just with a part number. Sometimes they knew how to describe it in words, but they didn't know what it was called, or they didn't have a part number for it. And so when I started to think about this problem that I was literally seeing people have every single day, I thought there should be a better solution for this. And at the same time, going back to like family and the importance of family, my grandfather, who is like my favorite person in the world, his tractor broke down. So we have a family farm. He was in the middle of a harvest and the tractor broke down and he couldn't find a part for it. So it was kind of like I was seeing this problem every day in my job. And then he called me trying to get my help to find a part, and he couldn't find it. And so I was like, okay. And then I couldn't find it. So I was like, okay, there has to be a better way. And that's kind of how I came upon this idea for visual recognition for parts. But it was really because I really understood the problem and I experienced it in a multitude of ways. And I wanted to create a solution to solve that problem.
Super important. I really hope like we find that clip, Tre'von, and the run back and bring that back up, because I think it's just important when you think about finding a business. These things are tough, right? And so like finding the legit need. And so I want to kind of jump forward a little bit. So, not to skip over the story of Part Pick, right? But there's a really interesting moment here, everyone. So Jewel, you've heard her story, right? You heard her, probably crying the night that Hampton lost her scholarship. to now being this entrepreneur that has a company and a business. And, I want to fast forward the story. Jewel, you end up growing this business, finding a team with another Black woman CTO, right? That's amazing. You raise a little bit of capital as well with that. And then you end up selling the company to Amazon, right? Yep. Amazon buys your company. So just to make sure we're at this like central point here, we just went from Hampton University, Howard, moving into the dorms of the annex to, okay, Amazon's buying the company. Can you talk to me about the next day? The next day when it's like deal's done, you started this company, like what is in your mind? What's the emotions like? Because I think when people hear that, they're like, oh, this is what's happening. So could you let us into that?
Yeah, so most people would think that you sell your company, you should be like on top of the world because you've had this amazing event, you've worked really hard for many years, and then someone finds value in what you built. They give you millions of dollars for it, and then life should be great. But for me, that wasn't exactly how it went. I was actually really sad about the whole process, and not just the sale, but the process of selling the business for many reasons. One is because I put so much of my life, work, sweat, tears, everything into it. And I was really afraid that they wouldn't handle it with the care that I had put into it. And then I think it was just a bit of like the feeling of being out of control, because when you sell your business, there's many ways it could go, but in our case, we sold the entire company. So that meant that they had the IP, they took on our team. So the entire team joined Amazon. And even though I was still leading the team, it was just different. And so I felt a lot of kind of pressure in that. I felt a little bit of sadness and depression because in my mind, we were going to go further as far as like run the company for a bit longer, really grow it to be a lot bigger. And so I was really battling this thing of like, well, my life is very different. I'm able to do things that I wasn't able to do before. I've been able to help my team in ways that I couldn't even imagine. But up against like my own expectations, it was still really challenging. So yeah,
talk about this a little bit. I think what's interesting is when people are like, I want to sell a company, I want to be the entrepreneur, I want to be this, I want to be that. Can you talk about, probably the market, and again, putting an investor hat on, when you see CEOs who you just know like are trying to get rich really quickly versus maybe how you felt, when you're getting your company bought, there is a thing of like, what's going to happen to my team? Yeah. Can you talk about like what what you can talk about of how you try to protect your team, and could it have cost you the act? Like, just go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so the details here are that we had a team of 14 people when we sold. And one of the deal points that I was set on was that they would not cherry pick. So a lot of times in acquisitions, if they're bringing on the team, they're going to pick who they think is just the best of the talent. But in our deal, I made it so that 100% of the team was brought on. And
I want to stop right there. So you're like, hey, you can buy my company, but if you don't hire the other 14 people that are right here with me, it's a no deal.
Correct.
I just think that's like, I think that's amazing. It shows a lot about character. And I hope that the 900, 800 people that are listening kind of like understand those are real things that you have to think about on your way to success. And so I love that. So keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the key point for me. There was three things that I had as non-negotiables in the deal, and the team was number one. And then the reason why that was important to me is because these people trusted me early on when I just had an idea and not very much money. And not honestly, they really didn't have many reasons except for like belief in me to join a startup versus going and working anywhere else. And so I just wanted to make sure that they were not slighted at all in the process. And so I think by and large, the entire team is really happy with how things turned out. And that, you know, they got great roles at Amazon. They got cash in their pockets. They got stock. So, you know, for them, it turned out really well. And that was important to me.
That's beautiful. So, okay, transitioning now. So we met entrepreneur Jewel. We've met some successful Jewel. Can you talk about now taking that success and saying, I want to go back and help? And I think this is where we probably introduce collab a little bit because I think, again, the entrepreneur's mindset, it's not just a thing when you're an entrepreneur, but again, it starts back when you're, you know, having those childhood experiences to now you're the same person. And so now can you talk about, you know, just how you are helping? I mean, there's people in the chat right now who are entrepreneurs who may be going, I need funding, or who may be going, I want to go start. Where do I, you know, like, what are the resources? You're a resource. Can you talk about collab a little bit?
Yeah. So while I was going through the journey of building my business, I felt like, man, this is so hard. It's so incredibly hard. I don't feel like I have what I need as far as access, as far as capital, as far as everything that you need to build a business. I always felt like I was at a deficit. And I kind of made a vow to myself that I made this vow while I was going through the journey that once I got on the other side, I was going to make sure that it wasn't as difficult for the people coming up behind me. And I was building the business at ATDC at Georgia Tech, and my next door neighbor was Barry Givens from Nasir at the time, and now my partner at Collab and also managing director at Techstars Atlanta. And so he and I had this conversation shortly after we both exited our business around the same time. And then our other friend, Justin Dawkins, we were having the same types of conversations, which is like, man, our journeys have been so hard. We didn't really have those people to help us out while we were going through it, or we didn't feel like we had that. And so let's get together and make sure that the next generation, the scooters and the folks that are coming after us, don't have to struggle as hard as we did. And so that's really kind of the genesis of Collab Capital, is that we believe that there is a very, very big need for a new institution, a new structure specifically built for Black entrepreneurs, because a lot of the things that are out there today are us trying to break our way through different systems and institutions that really were not built with us in mind. And that's an uphill battle. And so we are building Collab to solve the problem specifically for Black entrepreneurs, and from the perspective of capital resources as well as network, because we know that we do not have access to all the rooms that we should have access to. And for those of us that have been able to achieve a certain level of success, we want to make sure that we're bringing other people with us. And so that's really what we're up to at Collab.
And you're doing it now, right? You're not like, I sold a company and like not responding to text messages or any of this stuff. You're here with your Howard shirt on, giving real experiences, real talk. So let's zoom in. Let's get a little bit more tangible here. So let's talk about the mindset of the entrepreneur right now. You're sitting here, you have a company, things have kind of gone left, or just like what we're about to turn into, right? We read the news and we kind of hear about this financial downturn that's probably about to happen. We're hearing the word recession. So now you're like, is it a good time to start a company? Maybe I should keep my job, right? If I've already started a company and I've just launched, what should I be thinking tactically in terms of like just, team, or let's start there, team, and just, how people that you're working with and things of that nature?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is that you got to work on your mind. So whatever the team looks like, you're the leader of the team. So you have to figure out where you're at in all of this and get centered. It's a lot. It's a crazy circumstance that we're under right now. And honestly, in my lifetime, and I'm sure most of the people that are watching in our lifetime, we've never seen anything like it. And so the first thing is to get centered, get your feet on solid ground, and figure out kind of how are you going to lead yourself and others through what we don't know. We don't know what this is going to look like over the next weeks and months. So that's the first thing is wherever you go, wherever your source is, get there, spend time, be silent, think about what it is that you want to do, how you want to guide yourself and others around you, because it's so much uncertainty that you have got to get centered and pull from whatever your source is as one.
Okay. Keep going.
Second thing I would say is this is the time to step up as a leader. You have to convey to the folks that are depending on you, whether that's your team, your family, whoever it is, that you have a plan. So once you've gotten to your source, you've gotten centered, the next thing is to figure out what's your plan moving forward.
So this is a struggle for me. I think when I was in that CEO position of like, we think we have a plan and it's in here, but sometimes the person on the other side, they trust us, but we're not communicating the plan correct. And so it feels, and what happens is people lose confidence in you, right? And so they start to check up on you more, or they just stop hitting, contacting you at all. And especially you see that in the investor world. Investors are moving, right? And so can you talk a little bit about like strategies to just like make sure that you and your business partners or your team or your investors are on the same page and like you're really being like open and honest?
Yeah. So first of all, you got to get the plan out of your head. So write the vision, make it plain, write it out, share it with people around you, and get buy-in. If you have a team, it's good for you to set the context, set the vision, but it's really great to get people to buy into whatever it is that you're saying. So get their collaboration, get them involved, because it's a lot easier for people to sign up for something if they had a hand in writing it. So that's the first thing I would say. And then as far as investors and outside folks, being communicative and overly communicating during this type of time period is so important. So it's, for a lot of us, our nature, when things get a little bit rough or uncertain, is to go quiet, stop talking to people. But my recommendation is to actually lean in and talk to people more, communicate with people more so they know where you're at. And even if it's just to say, hey, I'm trying to figure some things out right now, it's a lot of things going on. Just say that, because people want to hear from you. If you're leading a team, it's not the right thing to do to just go completely silent on them. Really be communicating during this time, get people in meetings and conversations, because a lot of people just really need this communication and this touch. Even if you can't physically be there, this is being able to see people and know that people are doing okay.
I've seen Tre'von more times than I've seen my mom in the last week. So it's good to see more people. And so I think talking about that, I remember I had an investor tell me, people can handle bad news if you give them enough time. So I want to stay there, right? Because again, I think it's, maybe our culture might be representative is, hey, when bad things happen, you keep it in the house. We don't go talk about it at Quarantine Con. You don't go emailing people about it and getting advice, right? But, as an entrepreneur, right, like they call it lonely, right? And so how do you, again, get over yourself to be able to say, hey, because I remember, Jewel, I came to you and we sat together, and it's a little story time here. And so we sat together and I'm talking to Jewel. Yeah, we're doing this, we're doing that. This is great. And like, this opportunity is coming up. And then she goes, how are you? Like, how is Scooter? How are you? How are you doing? And within seconds, I started bawling. And we were sitting at the gathering spot, just bawling in the back corner. And she's like, it's okay. We can just sit here and cry. And, it was great to just get that out, right? Because, you probably can't talk to mom about that. Can't probably talk to co-founder about that. You can't, who do you talk to? And so Can you talk a little bit more about just getting to that point? And of all sides. You had a tech company, but again, we saw, women who have hoodie brands and candle brands. And again, it's an entrepreneur's mindset.
Yeah. I mean, that how are you question is so important. And I encourage you all, meet people today that you can be that person that asks that question for somebody and that somebody can ask that question for you, because just being able to release the emotion and get back to the business is so critical. I mean, honestly, I knew to ask Scooter that question because I knew in his eyes when I was listening to him, talking to him, and like, okay, yeah. But I see something else is going on. And the only reason I knew that is because I've been through it myself. And so that piece is super, super important, that connection part, and staying connected to people and not just crawling in a hole because things aren't going as you plan. You got to be brave to say, look, actually, shit's not right.
Yeah, no.
I need help. And that's something that I really struggled with, because when you have all this pressure and get to a point where you have people on payroll and you are responsible for lives in a certain sense, like, it's hard to say, actually, I don't really know how we're going to make it through. But you got to get brave and get to at least one person that you can have those types of conversations with, because else it'll be too heavy. So that's something I highly recommend. Thank you, Scooter, for bringing that up. But once you get past the emotion part, then you got to get to the tactical part of, okay, how do I keep my business afloat if I still am in business, or if I'm looking to start a business? And that's where honestly, I feel like this time period is going to be rough, but it actually is a blessing for a lot of us, because a lot of times we're stuck on stuff that really doesn't matter. And now is the time to get to the fundamentals. And it's really about how do you keep your business running? How do you keep your people paid if you're responsible for people's paychecks? How do you get on the phone with folks that have purchase orders that they haven't sent you money on, or where you have stuff that's outstanding? How do you get to collect on the funding that you've been owed for services that you provided? Getting back to, this is a business and there's inputs and outputs. That's what I would recommend for anybody that's currently in business right now. It is, how do you collect on services that you've already, because I know a lot of us are in net 60, net 90 even, as far as payments. So now is the time to really go for money that you're owed for services that you've already provided, or product that you've already delivered. And then secondly, how do you think about your business in a way where you are now providing something of value that people need today? And even though people are probably going to be changing course as far as a lot of the things that they're needing, there's still so many opportunities. I think I love the fact that this is for creatives and entrepreneurs, because this is the time for all of us to get creative about what we're offering to the world. I mean, I know a lot of people participated last night in D-Nice's party, and that was a great example of how you can offer your gifts to the world and people will be there to receive it. But you have to really understand what is it that people are needing right now. People are wanting connection. That's why this is so cool and important. People are needing help with their kids. People are needing, if you have like an ed tech company, this is a brilliant time for you to go after the market, because people are scrambling to try to figure out what do they do with their kids during the day. People are needing services, people are needing you to deliver things. Like, there's so many opportunities right now. And so I think this is actually a great time, even if you haven't started a business yet, you're thinking about it, to really survey what's happening right now and see where can you insert yourself and offer something that is that people need at this point in time.
So I woke up to a tweet today and you said you were very impressed about the execution that Tre'von and I had. 4 days. We went from an idea to this, right? In 4 days, right? Went from texting each other saying, hey, this is cool. We should we should do this Sunday, to making it happen. And we, as we were building, we were like, man, this feels good. This feels some startup-y and late nights and all this good stuff. And so can you talk about just with the creativity, right? Of like, it doesn't have to be super fancy and complex, right? I think a lot of people, when they try to go to investors, are like, oh, I need your money first before I can start. And so, if you think about it, we did all, guys, I'm in my mom's guest bedroom right now, you know, like this is nothing fancy at the moment. And so, you know, I think there might be a lot of people who just may be like stuck in their own kind of way of saying like, oh, when this happens, then I'll start. So I think some of it is like getting movement. What does that look like? And then also too, just, you know, again, being creative in this time to do that.
Yeah. Going is critical. Like, just go, start, do something. I mean, this right here is a model for have an idea, do the things, reach out to the network, call your friends, get something out to market. And no, is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. But done is better than perfect. And if you can get something out there and people get to experience where you're going with it, then they can help you. I'm sure, Scooter, you're going to have many people reaching out to say, hey, on the next one, I got you on this, or let me handle that. I mean, that's kind of the way right now. That's the way you got to move, is that we're all freaking in our homes, like indefinitely. So now is the time that we all have to just go and do. For me, I've been saying for years at this point, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And every year is on my list of things to do. Now I actually have the time and space to sit down. And it's I'm just like so excited about that. So for all of us, like, I think this is a time where, I don't know if you guys are familiar with a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. If you've ever heard of this idea, it's explored in Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. But this is something that right now is the time to have a growth mindset. And that's just to say that you believe that you can learn more, you can do more, you can grow past wherever you think you are right now. This is the time. Like, I'm literally every morning working on my Spanish, because I've said for 20 years that I want to be fluent in Spanish, and I've never really gotten past like basic conversation.
I love it.
I mean, there's just so many gifts in this time. And I think it's all about how you're thinking about it. If you're thinking about it as this is the worst thing ever, like I want to do this and that, and I can't do it, then it's not going to be a great time. But if you're thinking about it like, man, I can sit down, I can get some things done, I can launch what I've been wanting to launch, I can do what I've been wanting to do, then it's going to be an amazing time. So it's all about, back to that mindset. It's, you get to decide how you want to handle this. You get to decide. And if you are in a position where you're a leader and you're responsible for other people, you actually, your how you deal with it is going to affect and impact other folks as well. You have to be very careful about the energy that you have about this, and just how you're spending your time.
No, I love it. I mean, I think what's wild is I've talked to Barry, your partners, and Justin, and I think probably talked to you a little bit about what my plans were starting in January. And 4 days later, you know, like now we're here, and this was never in those plans. And so you don't know, but you have to keep acting, keep moving for that. So before we get out of here, I want to talk about resources, right? We've got these people's attention. They're here. They're in the chat. Where should they go? How can they go? Because I want to talk about what you do. So there's Collab Capital, right? Where you're actually actively investing in companies. I think we have one of your companies, Hairbrella, that might be a sponsor. And so guys, if you go to the Expo tab, you can check out Hairbrella in the Expo tab. Especially, it's really cool product. I don't even want to spoil it, but you also
Hairbrella.com. Go get your Hairbrella.
No, yes, just go get a Hairbrella, folks. But then also, Jewel, like you are the head of Google for Startups of the United States, right? Again, we met 17-year-old Jewel, and then we met sold a company Jewel. Now we have this Jewel here, where you're head of Google for Startups, also investing in companies. So if they're in the chat, where should they be going? Should they go to Collab, Google? Tell us where to go. Oh, are we frozen? Are we frozen? Let's see. Bring it back. See where my tech team is. Hold on, she's refreshing. Oh, we're back. I think we're back. Yep.
Okay, cool. Right. So collab.capital is our Collab Capital website. We also just launched a studio component where we have on the Collab Studio website, you can find a founder care package, which has a ton of different resources, everything from wellness as a founder to more tactical resources about your business. So that's on the collab side. Definitely check that out. And then on the Google for Startups side, you can check out our Google for Startups website. There's a lot of tips, tricks, resources, videos about everything related to starting a startup. So if you are doing something that's more on the tech side, definitely recommend looking into the resources that we have on the Google for Startups site. And what else? Those are the main things. I would say if you are not associated with any kind of co-working spaces or places like the Gathering Spot, this is a great time to get involved with spaces. Even though you can't go physically, a lot of them are doing some really incredible online content. The Gathering Spot's been killing it with that type of content. So definitely recommend getting proximate to a group. And even if it's just people that you meet here so that you can share resources, because like I said, now is the time to be in a growth mindset every day, trying to learn something new. We have the time and space to do it. So why not leave this quarantine situation better than we entered it?
No, I'm all about it. Jewel, thank you so much for taking the time. You've been nothing but a pleasure, from answering the text right off to dealing with us, trying to like test out the platform to make sure you're comfortable. I appreciate you, everyone. Everyone clap it up for Jewel. Put some clap.